Hi everybody, this is Warren Herman, and so today we're going to talk about a problem that many people run into in the spiritual life that usually doesn't get labeled for what it is or becomes a source of confusion. So what we're going to talk about today is this idea of what I'm going to call attraction OCD. And attraction OCD is something that people can deal with when they become afraid of sin. So the thing is, this is a very well-documented phenomena, and it can take different forms depending on the fears of the person. So for example, in somebody who is not involved in the church or not involved in, something in sort of a spiritual nature, relationship or attraction OCD can amplify attractions in a way that's maybe different than somebody whose fears are based in their faith. And so let me explain this, because this is something that is going to be helpful to you to understand that this is a simple mental dynamic, and and to understand how you can kind of begin to overcome some of these things. Now, people, for example, who are practicing their faith, they may become afraid of sinning. So therefore, they may become afraid of seeing people. They may be afraid of seeing people who are of the gender they're attracted to. They may be afraid of seeing people of the same gender. They may be afraid of seeing anything that might indicate to them that they have a lustful attraction to any person, because that would be terrible. They're afraid of sin. They're afraid of damnation. They're afraid of mortal sin. So this fear causes there to be essentially an amplification of perceptions, because the brain is on high alert. So whenever the brain sees a face of a person, it amplifies it. And then what happens is that when the face becomes amplified, it seems to come at the person. And so, or there seems to be a focus on the person, or something like that. And then what happens is that the person begins to believe that they are drawn toward this person. And they then, because the thing is being launched and amplified into consciousness, the appetites then move toward this thing that's being blasted into your consciousness. And then this slight movement of the appetites gets confused with sin. And this is what St. Francis de Sales talks about apparent consent. It seems like you consented, but your will didn't move. It was just something going on in your head. And it was kind of going on in the lower parts of your soul, not in the will. But it appears that you are consenting with your will because it seems like you want this thing. It seems like you could barely, and people may have this almost a desire to blaspheme, almost a desire to, say something terrible, to do so. They may seem that they have this desire, but actually what it is that your mind is, whatever it is that your mind, whether it's attraction, whether it's blasphemy, whether it's, dressing like a clown and jumping around in front of everybody randomly, whatever it is that's an unacceptable impulse, it seems like you want to do this because of the way that the mind is amplifying it because of the fear of this thing. And so it's coming at you and it's kind of bouncing around with the appetites. And so it seems like you're consenting, but really this is just something that's going on in the lower parts of yourself. And so the thing is that it doesn't have anything to do with sin because it's just weird stuff that's happening. And so this is what the people who talk about this psychologically talk about thought-action fusion. It seems like you're doing the things because you're thinking about it and there's such an amplification. It seems like and there's other stuff that's going on with the appetites. It just seems like you're acting on it. You want it. And the thing is, you can amplify an urge, a perception, a feeling, an attraction. Anything can be amplified. So it can seem like anything that seems threatening to you, it can be amplified in this way. And again, this can take the form of anything that's unacceptable. And we're focusing today on attraction OCD, which could, especially someone who's interested in their faith, this could just be you're worried that you're going to be attracted to people of the gender you're interested in. You're worried you're going to lust after them. So therefore, there's this amplification, this kind of what we might call a false attraction to people. Of course, you might really be attracted to people in some circumstances, but the thing is really what's going to be dominating in your life is this terror and this false attraction. That's going to be the amplification of perceptions, which leads to the movement of the appetites, which seems like you're consenting, which drives you crazy because you're living in constant fear that you're always going to hell. And then you're always ruminating about whether you sinned, and that leads to scrupulosity. And then the more fear you have, the less certain you are, and then you're just completely unsettled, and your life is a mess. Mostly spoken from experience with these type of fears. So the thing is, this type of fear can take on various forms. You could have people who have a terror that they will be attracted to and lust after just people of the gender they're interested in. You could have people who become terrified that they're going to become pedophiles. You could have people who become terrified that they're going to become homosexual. You can have people who are terrified of incest. You could have any type of thing that's unacceptable and scary can become amplified. And these things are normal because it's not like weird, it's whatever you're afraid of, your brain is looking for, because you're saying this would be awful if this happened. Let's be on the lookout for that. It doesn't mean anything. It only means that you don't want to do any of the things you're terrified of. That's all it means about you. It doesn't mean anything. There's nothing wrong with you like that. It's just your brain is working on the basically the false information that these passing thoughts are dangerous, or that somehow you might become something you fear. This is just a mental mechanism. It's just something, once you know what it is, that's going to help big time. So the question really becomes, what do we do about this? And one thing we want to have is accurate knowledge. Probably most of the battle is understanding what this is. That this is nothing scary. This is nothing special. Even if we want to describe it as OCD is nothing special. It's like, oh wow, I have a mental disease. No, it's just the fact that you're scared of something, and when you're scared of something, you focus on it. When you try to not think about pink elephants, you think about pink elephants. There's nothing more shocking about it than this. So the thing that we want to understand is that we don't want to have make a bigger deal out of it than it is. And, then this could take any form. You could have any kind of OCD like this. And you could be going through the whole day, because think about it. If you're afraid of these things, maybe you're terrified all the time when you're at mass. You're always afraid that you're going to be signaling to someone you're attracted to them. You're afraid, like, at the sign of peace, that you're going to, like, glance at someone inappropriately. You're always checking. You're always, like, looking at, like, oh, no, what does that person look like? That person's kind of dangerous. So the thing is, what do we do about this? Well, the first thing is accurate knowledge, understanding that these things, what these things are. That can actually lead to an instantaneous cure sometimes, or a largely instantaneous cure. But the problem is, if you continue to avoid things you're afraid of, you can easily fall back and lose the progress you get through knowledge. If you start to act or start to doubt, things, you start to get confused about stuff. You can really, the danger really is a lack of clear knowledge about what's going on. Because once you start to think about, okay, maybe looking at that person is a sin. Well, maybe I should look down. Maybe I should practice custody of the eyes in this way or that way. Whatever you start to get confused about what to do, that's the danger zone. The thing is, what you want is a clarity about what you should be doing. And I think the main thing is live your life normally is the guideline. Like, act like a normal person. St. Alphonsus talks about, that people can look at people for practical purposes. So for example, like a doctor can look at his patients, a pastor can look at his parishioner, it's like and the thing is, so act normally, live your life normally is a good guideline. Another principle that's really good is the idea, don't be scared, but don't be stupid. Like, the thing is, like, okay, don't be afraid of anything. And don't be dumb about looking at, don't look at something that's obviously impure, like something like an impure magazine or something, or pornography. We would never look at these things. And the thing is, because there is this, and there's also this necessity of exposure to the things that we do not want to do. So the thing is, if it makes sense for you to speak to a coworker who you have a fear that you're going to be attracted to, you should speak to the coworker in a normal way. You shouldn't do more or less, or just do what makes sense. Like, just act doing what makes sense, especially if you're dealing with this false attraction problem. Obviously, if someone is obviously, like, okay, let's say someone's married and they're obviously cheating on their spouse with some person, like, in an obvious way, yeah, don't hang around that person anymore. That's bad. You don't want to hang out with that person. Not a good idea. But the thing is, if you're just like, oh, I'm terrified, I'm always, like, obsessing on whether I'm being adulterous or if I'm being lustful, no, this is not. You want to live normally. And the thing is that and you never want to fear anything, but you also want to have this other category of don't be stupid. Like, don't like watch actively impure things or read actively impure things that anybody be like, oh, that's like pornographic or something. To stay away from that stuff and just live normally. You also don't, this is something very important. That's one part of the exposure, is just kind of looking at people in a normal way when you have to, for the normal duties of your life. The other thing is it might be easier and make more sense, rather than trying to stare at every person who you're attracted to. This might not be the best way of dealing with this problem on many different levels. It may be more effective to desire to be disturbed. And so the thing is, when you are disturbed by the presence of another person or the presence of an urge or the presence of any of these things, the thing is to desire more of the feeling directly. Like, don't do something to make yourself feel more disturbed. Just desire the disturbance. Wish to be disturbed. And this is a way of going toward the problem, because, fear is avoidance. We're trying to, once you do this, the problem is over. The problem is the avoidance. So when you want more of this feeling, you want to feel worse, you want to feel more agitated, you want to feel more fearful, you want to feel more disturbed, directly willing these sensations, wanting more of these sensations is the way forward, so you can confront this. So if on one hand you want accurate knowledge, you want to know what this thing is, you want to know this is like an OCD type thing, this is just a fear loop, this is just a perceived dangerous symptom that's amplifying stuff and making you think that you're giving a false impression of consent to all different kinds of thoughts and feelings and impulses and emotions. But the real deal here is that you are, you want more. You want more. That's the intellect. With the intellect, you want to understand what's going on. With the will, you want more disturbance. And so these two things, knowing the accurate knowledge will bring about a lessening of these emotions. And wanting more of these emotions will bring up a lot of lessening of the emotions, because what we resist, as Carl Jung says, persists. If you don't want to think about a pink elephant, you got to think about it. So the thing is, we want to reverse these things. We want to understand there's nothing dangerous, so we're not focused on this, and then we're not trying to not focus on it, so that it gives us that freedom. So hopefully this is helpful, gives you some guidelines of what to do, because it gives you that understanding. The main thing I wanted to highlight in this video is what to do, like for the exposure therapy part of it. The exposure therapy is you want to experience disturbance. You want to experience fear. You don't need to try to look at lustful things or try to look strangely at people you think you're attracted to. Go through your normal life, to look at people in a normal way, to do the duties that you are required to do. And then if there's anything that is, if you seem, I'm starting to be attracted to people while I'm at mass, I feel like I'm trying to look at that person, or I'm tempted to look here. Why am I feeling like I want to secretly look over there? Well, desire the disturbance. Don't try to desire more lust. Don't try to do that. That's not necessary. It's easy, just focus on desiring the fear. Don't try to think lustful thoughts so you're used to them. That's a weird way of doing exposure that's not going to help in this type of situation. It's not appropriate. So what you want to do is you try to use that indirect method of desiring the disturbance, and that's really the thing you're trying to get rid of anyway. You're not necessarily trying to get rid of the disturbance, so want more disturbance. That's what you're exposing yourself to. And this is the same thing for other things. You wouldn't say blasphemous words to get over a fear that you might be blasphemous and a compulsion to think blasphemous thoughts. You wouldn't do that. You would try to desire the disturbance, and you would try to desire that amplification, that fear of that urge. Fear more, feel worse. I want to feel more unpleasant. That's what I want. So that's what you want to will, so that you can break the cycle. Understand what's going on. Want more of what is unpleasant. So I hope this helps with these problems of attraction, OCD. And I hope you have a very good day.